there, welcome back to the channel. I'm Carrie with Blue City Pickin, and if you are new here, I am a part-time reseller who goes out to thrift stores, yard sales, estate sales, and attempts to find things to flip on eBay for a profit. So this is Ching number 13, which is the week of November the 24th. As awareness, my store was on vacation mode through Thanksgiving. It came off of vacation mode on Black Friday. So I know that impacted my sales, but I was still pretty happy to have 23 sales that week while I was on vacation mode. The overall gross sales, well, that's including shipping, taxes, and everything, was $605. $443 was the sale price. I paid $92 for all of the inventory, and then my gross profit was $267 for the week. I had an average gross profit of $11.64, and you will see why in a bit. There were a few things that I was really just trying to get rid of or we had used for personal. So I just didn't make a ton of money on them, and no excuses. I just did not make a lot of money this week. The average days in the store was 108. The minimum number was 5, and the maximum was something that I had for 352 days. So almost an entire year that it had been listed in the store. So happy to see that go bye-bye. All right, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. First off, we have this J. Jill Women's double-breasted wool blend jacket. It was red, very, very pretty. I picked this up at a Goodwill back in October. I paid $4.17 for it. It sold for $32. And when I say $32, that's the sales price, not including shipping and taxes. And my gross profit was $22.66 in 32 days. Next is off of Whatnot. I bought a big box, lots of like vintage weapons, vintage toys that were just big bags. I think I paid $75 for everything, and there were well over 100 pieces in there. So you will hear me reference a few of those today because I had 3 or 4 of those items sell today. I have already made my money back on that box, and I think I've sold like 5 or 6 things. So I'm really excited to see how much more I will make on that over time. But the first thing out of that lot off of Whatnot was this new old stock 1980s Darda replacement motor. Never heard of this. I sold this for $15. I put $1 cost of goods on everything that was in that lot. So I made $10.54 in just 5 days. Next up is this new old stock. It's a set of Exo Squad replacement stickers and decals from 1993 for this Playmates toy. They sold for $35.99. I paid $1, so I made $27.88 in just 5 days. Next is an Anchor Hawking cobalt blue bowl. I picked this up at an estate sale back in June. It was pretty scratched up. I was contemplating keeping it for myself, and then I just ended up selling it. So I paid $2 for it, sold it for $9.95, made $5.26, but after 152 days, I am glad it's gone. Next up is this Cynthia Rowley women's brown. It was all wool. 2X like long line cardigan, and it had these flowers on it. I thought it was pretty cute. I paid $5.99 for it at Goodwill. It sold for $26.10, and so I made $19.64 in just 28 days. Next item is something that we bought for personal use. We used it for a while. I picked it up at the Goodwill back in, I want to say January or February, for $5.99 for my daughter. I ended up selling it for $9. It's a Gap puffer vest. It had a removable hood. It was a women's size medium. It was very cute, but I mean, it is what it is. I sold it for $9, made 80 cents after getting, 6 months of use out of it in the spring. And it had been listed for 110 days. Next up is this pair of new old stock vintage Tommy Hilfiger pants. My husband actually pulled these out of his closet that he never had worn. They sold for $20. We had zero into it, and so we made $15.35 after just 45 days of being listed. Next up is another thing out of the Whatnot lot. It is a lot of 7. I believe the brand is Britain's LTD. It's detail. These were Western cowboy and Indians from 1971. Have $1 into them. They sold for $24.99, and so I made $20.41 in just 8 days, which is wonderful. Next up is this vintage clamshell serving dish. It was aluminum. I sold this for the charity that I help out. Sold it for $13.90, $0 into it, and they will get $10.94 for their charity after just 80 days. Next is this vintage crock pot. It's a potpourri, so it's a little potpourri crock pot. This is the second one of these I have sold, so this is a bolo for me because usually I can pick them up for $3 or $4 if they work. This one sold for $29. I did pay $5 for this one because it had the original potpourri in it and it looked like it had never been used. So I made $17.63 on it in just 21 days. Next up is a lot of vintage Lego Duplos. These were cars, trains, and I believe there was a boat, and there were a bunch of different figures in there. This came out of a Lego lot that I picked up back in March or April. Listed different bunches of them. So I have $0 into this. I've sold a bunch of it. I sold it for $18.90 and I made $14.36, but it did take 194 days to sell. Next up is this really cute little like business card holder or just card holder in general. It's very cottagecore. It was hand painted. It had tulips on it. I picked this up for $1 at one of our local thrift stores. Sold it for $10, made $7.16 in 81 days. Next up is one of my, if not my best sale of the week. This is a pair of Nike Revolution size 12 wide sneakers. I did pay up for these. They were in excellent condition. They barely looked like they had even been worn, if at all. They were $10.99 at Goodwill, and I sold them for $49.99 and made $32.11 in just 20 days. So that was great. Next up is this new old stock. It was a Swiffer Sweeper like vacuum filter replacement. I picked this up at Goodwill for 99 cents back in August. It sold for $8.95, and I profited $6.20 on that. Next up is part of a sewing lot. I bought a massive bag of sewing stuff at an estate sale back in October for $3, I think. I sold this part of it for $16. So I ended up profiting $8.87 in just 22 days of being listed. I've had pretty good luck with vintage sewing lots where you just bundle up a bunch of old buttons, sequins. Like this one had some really cool stuff in it. So I hope that they get some good use out of it. Next up is a Disney Parks O is for Orange Bird coffee mug. As you can probably see up here, I do collect Orange Bird. I had 2 of these, so I decided to go ahead and get rid of one of them. It sold for $21.60. I think I had paid $10 for this at the outlet. So I made $8.06 in just 77 days. Next up is one of 2 replacement parts from a L'Equipe juicer. This was back when I was like dabbling with if I want to pick up small appliances and part them out. I've done a few, and honestly, it's just not something that I get excited about listing. So unless it's just like the bee's knees as far as what it is, I don't think I will do it again. This replacement part, it was like the top of the juicer. It sold for $9.90. I think I paid like $7 or $8 for the machine. So I had $2 assigned to this. So I made $4.63 on this one piece. And then the other one was like the plunger that sold for $7. Put $1.99 on that, and I made $3.53 on that. And I'd had those, they'd been listed since May. I believe I bought them in March, so about 180 days. So not something I would pick up again, but that's okay. You live, you learn a lot as you go through your first year of reselling about what you would and wouldn't pick up again. Next up is a pair of Dansko clogs. I believe I picked these up at Goodwill for $7.99 not too long ago, right before Halloween. I sold them for $30. I made $15.68 just after 24 days. Next is my worst sale of the week. I actually lost money on this. I bought this for my husband. It was a size extra large. I brought it home and it did not fit him, which then made me realize it was a women's jacket. But it is a cycling jacket. It's a reflective bright yellow jacket. I have had this listed since February. I paid $10 for it. I sold it for $10, so I lost $2.76, but I am glad that it is gone. Next is a pair of Heelys that came out of a thread-up shoe rescue box. I have also had these for 267 days. I assigned $6.50 to each pair of shoes in there. I sold them for $15.92 and I profited $6.63. I think I've mentioned several times that I will not pick up a thread-up shoe rescue box anymore. There's just a lot of work for the amount of value that you get out of it, and it is so hit or miss. Next item is this vintage 1971 Milborn card game that I picked up for $3.99 at Goodwill. Sold it for $18.95, so I made $11.35, but it did take 216 days to sell. And last but not least, another not so great sale of the week, but I'm glad it's gone, is this Marvel Avengers Endgame Funko Pop. It is the glow-in-the-dark Captain America. I think I got this out of a mystery box, so I have $6.50 attached to it. It sold for $9.95. Gross profit of 84 cents after 352 days in the store. So, not a great week, but happy that a number of these items were really old, and I'm glad they're gone, and I'm glad I got my money back, right? So a lot about reselling is just learning. And since I'm still really in my first year of doing this, there's a lot of stuff that I did back in January, February, March, even in April and May, and even this past month that I would not do again. You learn so much. So I just recommend take your punches, learn your lessons, and just move on. Don't beat yourself up about it because there's nothing you can do. Just get it gone, get your money back, and don't do it again. So if you like this kind of content, I would appreciate a like. It makes the algorithm happy and keeps my videos rolling. If you also like this kind of content, I'd appreciate it if you subscribe and let me know how your sales were the week of Thanksgiving. Definitely curious if my store being on vacation impacted me more than I realized. So thank you so much for watching, and we will see you in the next one. Bye.